decisions about children without children.
Hello guys, and welcome to the Total News webinar child series for child participation. Are you excited?
This webinar will help you to understand child participation, both from a child perspective as well as experts. It will as well help demystify all the wrong perceptions and meanings previously heard or said. Reboot. Remember, there can never be decisions about children without children.
Hello guys, and welcome to the Total News webinar child series for child participation. Are you excited?
This webinar will help you to understand child participation, both from a child perspective as well as experts. It will as well help demystify all the wrong perceptions and meanings previously heard or said. Reboot. Remember, there can never be decisions about children without children.
Hello guys, and welcome to the Total News webinar child series for child participation. Are you excited?
This webinar will help you to understand child participation, both from a child perspective as well as experts. It will as well help demystify all the wrong perceptions and meanings previously heard or said. Reboot. Remember, there can never be decisions about children without children.
Hello guys, and welcome to the Total News webinar child series for child participation. Are you excited?
This webinar will help you to understand child participation, both from a child perspective as well as experts. It will as well help demystify all the wrong perceptions and meanings previously heard or said. Reboot. Remember, there can never be decisions about children without children.
Hello guys, and welcome to the Total News webinar child series for child participation. Are you excited?
This webinar will help you to understand child participation, both from a child perspective as well as experts. It will as well help demystify all the wrong perceptions and meanings previously heard or said. Reboot. Remember, there can never be decisions about children without children.
Hello guys, and welcome to the Total News webinar child series for child participation. Are you excited?
This webinar will help you to understand child participation, both from a child perspective as well as experts. It will as well help demystify all the wrong perceptions and meanings previously heard or said. Reboot. Remember, there can never be decisions about children without children.
Hello guys, and welcome to the Total News webinar child series for child participation. Are you excited?
This webinar will help you to understand child participation, both from a child perspective as well as experts. It will as well help demystify all the wrong perceptions and meanings previously heard or said. Reboot. Remember, there can never be decisions about children without children.
Hello guys, and welcome to the Total News webinar child series for child participation. Are you excited?
This webinar will help you to understand child participation, both from a child perspective as well as experts. It will as well help demystify all the wrong perceptions and meanings previously heard or said. Reboot. Remember, there can never be decisions about children without children.
Hello guys, and welcome to the Total News webinar child series for child participation. Are you excited?
This webinar will help you to understand child participation, both from a child perspective as well as experts. It will as well help demystify all the wrong perceptions and meanings previously heard or said. Karibu. Remember, there can never be decisions about children without children.
Hello guys, and welcome to the Total News Webinar Child Series for Child Participation. Are you excited?
This webinar will help you to understand child participation both from a child perspective as well as experts. It will as well help demystify all the wrong perceptions and meanings previously heard or said. Karibu. Remember, there can never be decisions about children without children.
Hello guys, and welcome to the Total News Webinar Child Series for Child Participation. Are you excited?
This webinar will help you to understand child participation both from a child perspective as well as experts. It will as well help demystify all the wrong perceptions and meanings previously heard or said.
Welcome to
Remember, there can never be decisions about children.
Welcome everyone to the Child Participation Webinar Series as it is continuing. I have seen that Maria has joined. Welcome so much, Maria. And every participant who is joining currently, welcome, karibu sana. The webinar will begin in just a few minutes. We are still setting up something, and also a few of the panelists have not joined yet, but as they join, just hold up, but we will begin quite soon. Thank you. Hello guys, and welcome to the Total News Webinar Child Series for Child Participation. Are you excited?
This webinar will help you to understand child participation both from a child perspective as well as experts. It will as well help demystify all the wrong perceptions and meanings previously heard or said. Karibu. Remember, there can never be decisions about children without children.
Hello guys, and welcome to the Total News Webinar Child Series for Child Participation. Are you excited?
This webinar will help you to understand child participation both from a child perspective as well as experts. It will as well help demystify all the wrong perceptions and meanings previously heard or said. Karibu. Remember, there can never be decisions about children without children.
Hello guys, and welcome to the Total News Webinar Child Series for Child Participation. Are you excited?
This webinar will help you to understand child participation both from a child perspective as well as experts. It will as well help demystify all the wrong perceptions and meanings previously heard or said. Karibu. Remember, there can never be decisions about children without children.
Hello guys, and welcome to the Total News Webinar Child Series for Child Participation. Are you excited?
This webinar will help you to understand child participation both from a child perspective as well as experts. It will as well help demystify all the wrong perceptions and meanings previously heard or said. Karibu. Remember, there can never be decisions about children without children.
Hello guys, and welcome to the Total News Webinar Child Series for Child Participation. Are you excited?
This webinar will help you to understand child participation both from a child perspective as well as experts. It will as well help demystify all the wrong perceptions and meanings previously heard or said. Karibu. Remember, there can never be decisions about children without children.
Hello guys, and welcome to the Total News Webinar Child Series for Child Participation. Are you excited?
This webinar will help you to understand child participation, both from a child perspective as well as experts. It will as well help demystify all the wrong perceptions and meanings previously heard or said. Karibu. Remember, there can never be decisions about children without children.
Hello guys, and welcome to the Total News Webinar Child Series for Child Participation. Are you excited?
This webinar will help you to understand child participation, both from a child perspective as well as experts. It will as well help demystify all the wrong perceptions and meanings previously heard or said. Karibu. Remember, there can never be decisions about children without children.
Hello guys, and welcome to the Total News Webinar Child Series for Child Participation. Are you excited?
This webinar will help you to understand child participation, both from a child perspective as well as experts. It will as well help demystify all the wrong perceptions and meanings previously heard or said. Karibu. Remember, there can never be decisions about children without children.
Hello guys, and welcome to the Total News Webinar Child Series for Child Participation. Are you excited?
This webinar will help you to understand child participation, both from a child perspective as well as experts. It will as well help demystify all the wrong perceptions and meanings previously heard or said. Karibu. Remember, there can never be decisions about children without children.
Hello guys, and welcome to the Total News Webinar Child Series for Child Participation. Are you excited?
This webinar will help you to understand child participation, both from a child perspective as well as experts. It will as well help demystify all the wrong perceptions and meanings previously heard or said. Karibu. Remember, there can never be decisions about children without children.
Hello guys, and welcome to the Total News Webinar Child Series for... Yes, hello everyone from wherever you're joining us. Karibuni sana to the this Total News Child Participation webinar series, and we have very many interesting things that's going to be coming. I understand that we have children who will be joining us from Burundi and Nigeria. We also have our very own Brian King from Total News so that he can take us through the recap. We also have speakers like I don't know if Suzanne will be able to join, but if she joins, we also have her to give us her perspective on the expert side on what on child participation. So at this juncture, I want to move on. I want to welcome Brian King so that he can give us a recap and also the welcoming remarks. So Brian King, karibu sana.
Hello everybody, I am Brian King. I was your host for the third webinar series. It was fun, it was exciting. Of course I was with Mora, but she's not right now. But don't worry, I'll take you through what happened. I'm sure you were with me. But most importantly, we had an amazing panel. Just like this time, we also had a very, very amazing people. Miss Yvonne Taguirei, Miss Marilyn Jeroge, Miss Sheila Bola, and the child. As always, we make sure we have a child in the child participation webinar series. His name was Sadiq Daniels. He was from South Africa, and he gave us really amazing insights on a child, his perspective, because he's also special. He's a special child, and so he gave us the special, he gave us his perspective as a special child that they really all represented, which, by the way, was the topic for the third webinar series. For me personally, I got to enjoy something. I was really amazed by some fact which I learned from the webinar. It's called child-led research. I mean, you people, did you know about that? There's actually something called child-led research. Just like things are coming up which are child-led, we have a child-led research. What is it exactly? Child-led research is simple. It's research that is led by children with facilitation of adults. That was my special thing. That is what I learned from the whole webinar series. Not the whole, but the third webinar series. I hope this one will be as amazing as that one. I learned a lot, of course. And of course, if you need to see it again, it's live streamed on YouTube at Mtoto News. You can just go and check it out. Go listen to it. It was amazing, it was insightful, and it was filled with content from the amazing panelists. I told you we had 4 panelists: Miss Yvonne Chagure, Miss Marilyn Joroge, Miss Sheila Bowler, and Mr. Sadiq Daniels. That was the review for the third webinar series. Welcome you to the fourth, and hand over back to Omar Ahmed, who will be our host for today.
Yes, thank you so much for that beautiful recap. Of course, it was amazing. If you want to check it out, all these webinars are being recorded and they're live at Total News YouTube channel, and you can go watch how the previous child gave us his perspective on what child participation was to him. And also we had different experts, just as Brian has said, and they gave us their perspective on child participation. And now we are at the 4th child participation webinar series. So at this juncture, I want to welcome Dr. Maria Osang Asim, so that she can give us child participation in the digital era, a look at the UNCRC GC25 and opportunities and gaps. So Dr. Maria Osang Asim, karibu sana.
This was, you don't want to come, there's a tendency to come as an expert and say, yes, I'm an expert, I'm coming to maybe teach people or share expertise with them. That's not always the right approach. I'm coming today first as a learner, in the sense that this is about the child and their own experiences. So sometimes we need to flip the script and say, what can we learn from children? What are their perspectives? Because we take it for granted that as adults, we know what the problems of children are, or we know what their perspectives are, what their thoughts are, what their concerns are. But in truth, that's not correct. Because you would find that the way children frame these issues, it's not always the same as adults frame them, far from it. So I want to just start by sharing like a general perspectives on the whole matter of tech, children and the digital rights and all of those issues, and just share personal experiences and examples and showing how technology or the digital era itself can facilitate child participation. And before even just going to maybe whatever the general comment has to say or offers us on this subject, because the general comment, what it does is to tell us, for example, when it talks about the rights of the child to participate, it's reporting to us some of the things you know. So you don't want to start from the point of view of saying you want to repeat the things that are already there, even when there are lessons to learn. There are always lessons to learn. But you want to go and say, how does this apply in practice to me as a person or to children? Because if you look at what the general comment says, and I'm just mentioning this because of Brian's the introduction from the earlier speaker. If you look at paragraph 16 to 18 of that general comment, it talks about it covers areas where child participation, intersects with technology, right? So in the first one, it talks about the fact that digital environment opens up many doors and opportunities for children's voices to be heard as expected in matters that concern them. But the first thing I wanted us to reflect on is over 30 years ago, when the CRC was adopted, I think 1989, and the following year, 1990, you had the African Children's Charter also came into existence. What is interesting to note is that was the same period, the same year, where the internet practically was born. So it's just over 30 years ago that the developments that we are seeing today began. And it's been amazing to see how the journey has been with technology. So it feels almost as if the recognition of children as individuals with full autonomy and agency was also what gave birth, or the same time that gave birth to the internet revolution, for lack of a better expression, because that was about just the same year. So that's something very interesting to keep at the backs of our minds, because you also want to wonder, what difference has it made? What impact has it had on children's rights? And the reason why I ask that is this. When you look at the CRC as a document, and you even look at the African Children's Charter, you will see that at the time when those two instruments or documents were created, obviously the drafters, they did not foresee the explosion of the new technology that we have today, or the new technology that we have witnessed in the last 30 years and is still continuing at a very dizzying pace, if I may put it that way. But fortunately for us, the CRC and the Charter are not static, just as we human beings are not supposed to be static. Those who belong to the Christian faith, you remember that there's a statement there that talks about the Lord Jesus was saying that, was talking about the Sabbath and was saying that laws are made for man and not man for law. And I think that statement is very important, because sometimes people want to be rigid and say this is how it's been, this is how it's fixed, and we shouldn't change it. If that is our view, then all the changes that technology has brought, we shouldn't be participating in them. We shouldn't be enjoying them. We shouldn't be promoting them. So it tells you that even the very form of nature is not static. It's supposed to evolve and continue in all the cycle of life, similar to all human beings, and particularly children. I often ask my students in class, especially the postgraduate ones, how many of you can remember when you were 16 or when you were 10 or when you were 18? Many just remember that the dates came and went, but they cannot tell you specific things. And at the same time, you don't suddenly turn 18 and it's like a switch goes up in your head. Or from today, I am a full adult, I can do whatever I like, or this is how to do things. No, there's nothing automatic. So even as human beings, we continue to evolve. For children, the principle of evolving is even much more important, because that lifespan is a period where there's a lot of rapid development. Again, interestingly, similar to the kind of pace at which we see technology evolving and moving so fast. So, as proof of the fact that technology is not static, and that the Charter and the CRC themselves are not static, we have the committees, you see, that look into these documents. So it's interesting that the CRC committee, which when it was drafting when the CRC was being drafted, there was no thought about the kind of technology or digital environment as we know it today, has now continued to evolve with the time to say the goal is for the protection of children. Whether 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, generations to come from now, the primary focus is that children should be protected. So if children's rights should be protected, including their participation in the physical space, in the physical world where we are, then it goes to reason that even in the digital sphere, those rights must be protected. We are here. I am seated here in South Africa. I'm participating in this webinar on the basis of technology. So I did not need to, say, for instance, travel to Nairobi or wherever, and I can connect. And other people are joining us from different places. That is one of the benefits, right, that we are experiencing for technology. So that's already a clear evidence of technology facilitating participation. So that all the traditional excuses that are usually in place, we cannot get everybody, they are no longer tenable. We're able to dismantle them. So the role of technology and the digital environment generally for children and for their rights, including and particularly the right to participation, is significant. Why? It comes with numerous opportunities. Even though we know that it can also be a tool for abuse or rights violation, just like any other thing. Why am I saying that? Oftentimes when we talk about technology or the digital era, there's always a danger of looking at the problems? What are the dangers? It's almost like there is this instinct to focus on the negative, and almost not even want to pay attention to the fact that there's some positive elements to it. So it's true, we have online safety issues, whether we talk about online sexual exploitation, whether it's child sexual abuse material, whether it's the impact of social media on mental health and welfare, things like the harmful impact on the self-confidence and self-worth of children. There are those abuses. But in as much as there are abuses, opportunities abound. And I'm linking this to the context of Africa, where we have an agenda 2040, you have the AU 2063 and all of those things, where we say we want to create an Africa fit for children. If we want to create an Africa fit for children, or a South Africa fit for children, a Kenya fit for children, a Nigeria fit for children, a Zimbabwe, fit for children, whatever country it is, then we are saying we want an environment where our children are able to grow and develop to the maximum capacity of their potential. We are saying that the reason for that is because we want our children to be able to compete with their peers anywhere in the world. So we cannot achieve those goals if we do not pay attention to the opportunities that the digital era provides, especially where participation is concerned. And we do not put in place measures and take steps to maximize those opportunities, while at the same time looking at how to minimize, prevent, and address the dangers, the harms, or the risks involved. So it's always a holistic package, just like a combination of your 2 feet for balance, your 2 hands when you want to do something, this table that my laptop is sitting on, you need like all the legs. So you have to always look at both sides. So what are some of those opportunities? We've talked about this. Just the fact that we can have this interaction, this engagement is there. Another, in the context of the right to education, I was discussing with some colleagues that if COVID-19 taught us anything, it showed us again that children are the real digital natives. I think many parents became, should I say, grateful for the work that teachers do in taking care of children every day. When the children had to be at home with us, and we had to be both mommy, daddy, teacher, everything combined. And I had in my own case where the children had to be teaching me some of the things that their assignments, their homework entailed, and teaching you how to fiddle with some of these things. So you realize that the children are the true digital natives. So if we don't give them the space to flourish, to utilize it, to learn, even to be empowered to protect themselves, just as you teach a child to be empowered to protect himself or herself in the physical space, you need to do the same thing in the digital space. So it works both ways. Now, globally, children make up about 1/3 of internet users, for instance. They are key, stakeholders. Yet, very little attention is given to overall their protection and participation and the rights that are attached to that. In Africa, that will be over 40% or so of all children. Now, digital era, technology, and everything to do with it, we know has been promoted as the great equalizer. But in reality, we know that it can also be the great unequalizer. In the context of South Africa here, for example, I'm using that example because it is where I am right now and I know the context. While some children were able to continue with their studies and were making good progress during COVID-19, when there was lockdown and schools were shut down, they could continue their studies online and keep up with their work. There were some others who could not. Why? There were issues of access. There were issues of resources, location. So all the inequalities in certain domains came out and were exacerbated. So it tells you that there is a component of making digital literacy wide-reaching for all the range of children that are in any environment, to make sure that no one is left behind and can compete and compare favorably with their peers, not only in their locality or in their nation, but anywhere in the world. That's the ultimate goal. Otherwise, then there is no point. Otherwise, there is no point in having a convention on the rights of the child, which is a UN document that is the most ratified instrument, which is a document that touches upon virtually all the nations of the world. because the platform of the CRC is to give us a uniform basis to at least begin to promote the rights of the child or pursue advancements in the understanding and implementation of the rights of the child. So another opportunity is in the context of their civil and political rights to participate, to have these discussions we are having in this webinar series, to say what are your concerns, how do you see them, to say what is the role that children can play even in lawmaking. We make these laws for children. To what extent were their voices heard? To what extent do they have a say in it? To what extent do they understand the law, let alone the implementation of the law or how it applies to them? So there are a range of domains in which we have opportunities and benefits. And we must take them while, again, I'm insisting, working to minimize whatever the dangers are, rather than ignoring the potential for great opportunities and advancement because we want to project so much the problems. Now, we all know that to a large extent, technology has already fundamentally changed the way in which children themselves perceive their rights, the way they understand them, exercise them, and in many cases unconsciously. Like a child, if a child is using a tablet or a phone and communicating on WhatsApp or whatever, and the child may not be able to say, oh, I am exercising my right to participation, but that's exactly what the child is doing. If you have a WhatsApp family group or a WhatsApp church group or a WhatsApp mosque group, a WhatsApp social group, book club, whatever it is, that is your freedom of association and assembly that you are exercising. It is embedded in the child's right to participation. So you see, the civil and political rights, even of anyone, they are intertwined when we talk about this participation. So one core challenge we always have when it comes to technology or the digital era is the tension between participation and the protection elements. And that's why I keep on saying it must always be looked at as something that must be balanced, because for lack of a better expression, you don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, right? So you want to take the good, leverage on it as much as possible while minimizing the dangers, not ignoring them, but seeing how you can minimize them, how you can address them when they do occur. So children have strong views on technology and digital rights as it affects them, whether it's in policy, and it doesn't matter what the context is at home. I mean, the children here can give us several examples. I don't need to even go into all of those things. They can give us several examples. I want to quickly give just a quick rundown of a study that was done by an organization called Be in Touch. They were surveying about 1,500 twins, so children between 10 and 18, just to get an understanding of their relationship with technology or the internet, basically. And the reason why I want to highlight this is because it opened my eyes to one element that we sometimes miss. By the age of 10, 54% of children had access to phones or tablets. About 68% going to 70% are able to access social media by 12. About 66% have access to phones and tablets in their rooms at night. And this 66% have no parental controls or filters. Now, what was most interesting to me is that most of the children who experience cyberbullying, now we know that cyberbullying is a digital equivalent of physical bullying, right? But most of the cyberbullying cases occurred in the night, 83%. So it's almost as if cyberbullying occurs at night and then physical bullying occurs during the day. But the main point that data was showing us is the danger of unfettered access. So it's not about access or participation. But if a child has to be healthy, if a child has to have his survival and development put into consideration, and let's say, for instance, today is a Tuesday, if a child has to go to school tomorrow and it's bedtime, and rather than sleeping, which is part of the child's right in terms of the right to life, survival, and development, you are accessing this and exposing yourself to bullying. It tells you that a child's protection is dependent on that even so-called other people who have access or relationship with the child, usually starting with the parents or older caregivers, have. So people need to be aware and alive, and that's what I mean by knowledge, first of all, of what the issues are. They know how to exercise parental control and help them in relation to their relationship with technology and with the digital space. Now, whether it's It doesn't matter what category of rights you're looking at, whether it's in the CRC or the African Children's Charter, all of them have elements of participation and elements that demand, in this day and age, impact or are affected by the digital technology. And we must take all of those things, into account. Now, I'm going to wrap up with an example from Namibia. But before that, I wanted to just share with you what the CRC general comment talks about, right? In relation to respect for the views of the child participation in the digital era. Now, the reason why, that's why I said I won't start there, because I don't want to just be reading, but I want us to have a context against which to understand what we are talking about. Now, children themselves reported that the digital environment certainly affects them, and it gives them crucial opportunities for their voices to be heard. It can help them to be involved in participation at different levels. And because of that, there is a responsibility on states and other stakeholders to promote awareness of these things, provide access, right? And offer training and support. That's what I meant by empowerment. How do you use it? How do you protect yourself? You see, so you must think about that. Next, when you're developing law, whatever it is, your programs, your policies, and whatever your training is, the children themselves need to be involved in that process. We need to hear what their concerns are and then give weight to them, right? And this also means, when I talk about multi-stakeholders, when we talk about the state can feel like an abstract entity up there. But when you break it down, which person in what department is responsible? In some countries, let's say you have a data protection manager, officer, or whatever, or commissioner, whatever you call it, so that those can break down and give us implementation guidelines on what to do. And they can be in charge of engaging with digital service providers, so your TikToks, your Facebooks, your WhatsApp, whatever it is, on how to actively engage with children, how to use the appropriate safeguards, and make sure that the views of children are considered when products are being developed. Because you and I would know, we agree, that usually when these tech things are being developed, nobody's thinking about the children at the time of being developed. But when we are having conversations like this, then are you thinking of different target groups when this product or service becomes accessible to the public? In this case, children. Is it appropriate per age? Does it have sufficient safeguards to protect them? You have to think of all of those things. And then, obviously, utilize digital environment itself, the medium of technology, to consult children on laws, administrative measures, and all other practical measures. So it's not just about monitoring. It's not just about you want to get their information or data control, which is linked to privacy, or violating their right to freedom of thought and opinion, but a consultative process that includes children. Now, I wanted to highlight those elements from the CRC general comment because I want to use it to explain an experience that I had with in the context of Namibia. I'm using Namibia only because at the time I was working on my PhD years ago, and I was indirectly involved in the process because my supervisor was the lead consultant of the international group of experts at the time, helping the government of Namibia to develop its Child Care and Protection Act. Now, that Child Care and Protection Act, like other countries, like Kenya has its own version, other African countries have their own versions. That one contains all the laws that apply to children, right? And gives guidelines. But what was interesting in the Namibian experience is before that law, the law now it's dated 2015, after I went through the parliamentary processes and it's out now. So it's a 2015 law, so it's not old, right? But building up to that 2015, many years, there was a whole process. But what I want to spotlight is the involvement of children and youth in developing that law, linking it to what I just highlighted from what the CRC general comment says about respecting the views of the children, that even when it comes to making laws, for example, you need to utilize the digital environment to consult with children, and not just tokenistic consultation, but in a meaningful way. So in the process of developing the Namibia Child Care and Protection Act, there was a specific consultation process just to make sure that children and young people were involved in revising the bill before it became law. So, and it was led by something called the Children's Reference Group. I think I'll send later. There's a link you can go and read. UNICEF was involved in the process, so they have the document explaining the whole process. So there was a Children's Reference Group, and that reference group was a youth version of the National Technical Working Group on the draft. They met on a monthly basis, and their purpose was to lead and direct the children's consultation process. So in that process, they themselves, the children, will make decisions on which topics are of most interest to children in that law and on the best ways to get the views of children on those laws, right? So they also had to rely on, a team of consultants who had experience working with children and with young people, and just like Mtoto does there in Kenya and in East Africa, which is a very inspiring example and model that many more should, get on board with. Because you need expertise in an area where you don't have experience. You don't come. That's why I said I was not coming from the notion of, I'm the expert of. I'm not a child, so how can I be an expert? I can only speak on my own experience, maybe when I was, and then the experience of those that I know and I'm dealing with. So what that team did was to adapt all the adult information materials, but for use with children, and then training facilitators to discuss the bill with children, obviously in a child-friendly manner. And they held youth consultations in some of the regions of the country. And then there was also a situation where national conferences took place, and the bill was put there twice at least in 1 year for children to look at it and make inputs. And one of the interesting things, there was a local business, I don't remember the name, but there was even a prize, a competition. There was at the time they put up an MP4 player as a prize for the most thoughtful input received from a child or a young person. Now, this created a ripple effect. What I mean is more and more children started understanding, this law is about us. This law concerns us. So we need to be part of whatever this law is aiming to do. And we need to verify or confirm that we agree with the law. And then we ourselves can then be agents of promoting the law when it's time. So some of the activities conducted, apart from the monthly meetings I talked about, there was a training of youth facilitators, regional consultations, and featuring them in papers and magazines targeted mainly at children. And very interestingly, obviously at the time, Facebook was the #1 social media platform for children. I'm sure if this was something that we're doing in more recent years, you move to your Instagrams, you move to your TikToks, the different ones. But at that time, Facebook was #1. So a discussion page was even created there just for children, right? And you have topics like what should the age of majority be in Namibia? How old should you be to think about accessing contraceptives? Should parents be allowed to beat their children? Questions like that to reach out to children. And the ministry was soliciting input through Facebook at that time. Now, using technology to get children to participate, to be involved in the process in order to make a law which affects children. So they were putting into effect what the law actually says. So people who joined the discussion group could give their inputs in the bill by posting their comments. And there were designated people who were taking all the comments and looking at the inputs. Now, this is extremely important because, for example, corporal punishment is always a big controversial discussion topic. Corporal punishment means this, you cannot outlaw it, you cannot outlaw it, and all of those things. It's against our religion if you ban it, all manner of arguments against it. But the approach in the Namibian example was, what do you think about it when we talk? So they used examples like beating children, words and examples that children could understand, and said, if you do something wrong, should you just be let free? And you hear comments, children tell you, no, when I do something wrong, I know I've done something wrong and I expect that something should be done. But you don't have to beat me, that sometimes beating me makes me feel that something is wrong with me. So the children could feel that the punishment was not about whatever was done wrong, but it was an affront on their dignity. Because sometimes the punishment was not commensurate with the crime, for lack of a better way of putting it. So all of this feedback was taken into account. So we were able to explain to people clearly that when we talk about prohibition of corporal punishment on children, we are not saying do not discipline children. No responsible, rational, reasonable adult would say that children should not be disciplined. Even adults require discipline. Discipline is part of what shapes us and forms us to become responsible members of society, and it starts from childhood. So, like I said, no rational, reasonable, or responsible person, child or adult, will say that discipline is not correct. No. But we are saying discipline is not one and the same with corporal punishment. So that point, that distinction always has to be made. So it was interesting to see, to get that, that viewpoint. And we're then able to talk about alternative forms of discipline, having heard from the children and how we can improve the situation and get the results. The result you want is children who are well behaved. The result you want is children who are fully developed, able to compete with their peers, contribute to their society. Not children who are broken by corporal punishment and have lost their dignity and cannot speak out. In fact, research shows us that most of the children who have experienced such are the ones who are victims of abuse because they've lost all sense of empowerment to protect themselves or to speak up for themselves. So just to show you the outcome of this child participation process in drafting that law, I just want to read to you quickly what the current section 228 of that law says. A person who has control of the child, including parental rights and responsibilities, must respect the right of the child to dignity, right? Any provision, rule of custom or customary law authorizing corporal punishment. Remember that corporal punishment has a definition. Corporal punishment is not saying no to discipline. No. Including any court of a traditional leader is repealed to the extent that it authorizes such punishment. A person may not administer corporal punishment to a child at any residential care facility, school, wherever, or any other form of alternative care. The minister must take all reasonable steps to ensure education and awareness raising concerning the effect of these subsections and to make sure it's implemented all across the regions, and must also ensure that programs and materials promoting appropriate discipline at home and in other contexts where children are cared for are available in all the regions of the country. Now, I've had people who are talking about Nigeria is a small country, maybe population of less than 3 million and all of those things. But you see, when we start from a point of negativity, then we are not addressing the real issues. We always start from the local. When you want to deal with anything, they say in Africa, they say if you want to eat an elephant, it's one bite after a time, right? A journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step. You take one step at a time. Can we deal with this locality and ensure the children participate? Then you can think, can we broaden it to the district? Can we broaden it to the region? Can we broaden it to, a larger audience, and then the entire nation, and then Africa? So you must always start on a step-by-step basis and go incrementally to deal with the issues. So in just trying to come to a conclusion, remember I mentioned Agenda 2040, and one of the key points of Agenda 2040 is that states have a duty to provide universal access to affordable ICT and to integrate it into teaching and curricula. Why? Because there is a recognition that we must move with the times and produce an Africa fit for children. What does that mean? An Africa in which they are developed to the fullest extent of their capacity and they can compete favorably with their peers here or anywhere else in the world, right? So what are the main goals we are looking for? We want to harness the opportunities that technology makes available for us in law, in practice, in programming, in policy, and in every context. We want to identify those opportunities and harness them. At the same time, we want to identify and mitigate the risks that come with them, right? So we want to educate and empower children and adults who deal with children on how to educate children and teach them to protect themselves because they will use this means, right? We also want to promote accessibility, inclusion. So the goal is to reach the widest range of all the children so that we break the cycle of inequality and discrimination so that the child in the rural area is not more disadvantaged or lagging behind from the child in the city because of the lack of access. We want to build a chain of responsibility, right? So that there's collaboration. That is, for instance, governments working with service providers and other stakeholders. And then we have a chain of accountability. When there is a crime, when there is a breach, who do we go to? How do we take the process to address the problem? And then very important, you always want to integrate a child child-centered design. Again, this is multi-sectoral. What do I mean? You must bring in expertise of different people. So for instance, if you want to talk about digital technology, you can't just come and gather lawyers. They don't know, that's not their area. So you must gather different people with different skills and technicalities. For instance, those that develop services and products. Have you thought about making this child-friendly? Have you thought about the safeguards that children need to use these products and services? So you, from the conception stage, you already have that category of people at the back of your mind. And then obviously, we want to ensure effectiveness. What does that mean? Implementation, making sure that the political will is there. And the greatest evidence of political will is mobilization of resources. Because, for instance, we can't talk about access. We can't talk about Agenda 2040 and providing universal access if there is no resource mobilization, you see, so that you promote affordability, accessibility, and all of those things that make the digital environment and technology really a medium for creating an Africa fit for children and for creating children who are able to compare and compete favorably with their peers anywhere in the world. So we become a people who look at the opportunities, latch on them, maximize them for all the children, and not just particular children, but for all the children, while at the same time being alive to the dangers and working collectively to minimize them and create a system that addresses them and provides accountability when there are problems or when there is a breach. So I'm going to leave it there for now. I'm hoping this has been helpful, and whatever comments or questions you have, I will try my best to answer them. But I thought it was to be more useful to have this kind of broader discussions because there's so many things to unpack, rather than just me coming in to give you a rundown of the general comment says this, it says that, and all of those, because you can always get it from the internet and read it for yourself. Thank you once again for this opportunity. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Maria Osang Asim, for those comments that you've given us on child participation. I like the way you've said that no matter what that happens on technology, on digital literacy, how we progress, that all in all, the primary focal point is actually protecting the child from things like cyberbullying, from things like sexual exploitation online. And I also love the fact that you've said that children need to be involved in today's era. Today we can involve children in the justice system, like you have said. We can involve children in making decisions even at home. Let's start from the family level. Brian King, in the first webinar series, he mentioned something about adultism, and I feel like this is something we need to remove since we have things like this digital literacy, things like technology. I feel like children should be involved in making these decisions these days, and when they are making the bill for children, let the children be there. When they're making a decision maybe in school, let the children be involved. So thank you so much, Dr. Asim, for those comments. At this juncture, I want to welcome Henry Kabwe, who's going to give us the perspective on media as a platform for participation. So Henry Kabwe, the floor is yours. Karibu sana.
you find that, the children are just parroting what the adults have done. Participation is not effective, even during the International Children's Day broadcasting, where we expect children to go out there, collect news and report it from their perspective and also broadcast it. But at the end of the day, we see that, children are just used, to parrot what the adults have done. And this has happened in many instances where adults write speeches for children to just read. So they find articulate children who know how to talk and their accents are entertaining, but, they don't, bring out information that they have gotten from their peers, in order for them to be able to bring it out, to the public spaces. So participating in the media has actually helped, a number of children become relevant, to society, because if you look at most of our communities, you find that children do not discuss important issues. A lot of children in our societies are discussing sex, alcohol, drug abuse, and all those things. But when we start involving children in our national budgeting processes through the media, we are involving them in World Development Committee meetings and other, initiatives that are supported by government. The children will have, moments to discuss how they are going to, improve their society. The children will have something viable to talk about, and they're going to be responsible citizens. As long as we leave children away, from the national discourse, from the community discourse or district discourse, the children won't be able to have something important, to concentrate on. That's why we are having cases of children, involving themselves in illicit sex. We have had cases in Zambia where, children, maybe a number of girls, I think at some point we had over 16,000 girls, impregnated from the school system, because these children do not have spaces where they concentrate on things that can, be able to add value, to our lives. So participation is something that we need to invest in order for us to promote a democratic space and also to influence development. The kind of things children are talking about is going to determine the kind of leaders they're going to be in future and the kind of development that you're going to have in future. So we can make the future predictable by mobilizing these children, make them talk about important issues within our spaces, from the protection point of view, from the development point of view, from the empowerment point of view, and also the participation point of view. Because participation is not in a vacuum. Participation will enable children to talk about the climate change, gender issues, SDGs and other issues that are of importance in our community. So there's need for us to ensure that we create these spaces for children to be able to bring out issues that will also benefit us. And that means we also need to prepare adults to avoid tokenism, to avoid decoration, for children to be able to be given spaces. First of course, you have to empower them, but they should be able to bring out information from their perspectives within the media spaces. But you have seen a number of challenges where the media just gives children what to read. Even in other spaces like governance, it's a World AIDS Day and the child is given a speech to just read because they choose a child with the best accent at a particular school, for them to be able to read that speech. So we need to move away from that and ensure that participation is meaningful, participation is relevant, it's voluntary, and the children are given enough information to be able to bring out. And we don't, make it elitist. We choose children from families where they are more exposed, to, languages, that are promoted by, the colonial masters. We need to ensure that the participation also empowers children from poor families to be able to use media spaces. That enhances their confidence. It enhances their capacities to be able to bring out issues and participate in matters affecting them. So participation should not create discrimination between the rich and those that are well-to-do. Should be able to empower every child to be able to have platforms at community level. We have community radio stations. At district level, we have media houses that operate at that space. So we need to ensure that we promote participation within the media spaces that is viable, that is able to, have us as adults get things from children that can, challenge our perspectives. Most of us grew up, before the internet evolution. Our experiences with life in our childhood is totally different from what the children are going through today. So we need to ensure that we create those spaces. And most of the rebellion by children to speak, to calm you, because you are being heard, you are being listened to. So most of the rebellion that we are seeing today, most of the challenges that we are seeing today, because we are not listening to them, we are not giving them spaces. So we need to create those spaces for them, for children to speak to our leaders, for children to speak to our within the faith-based initiatives. If you look at Africa, there are so many traditional sayings that promote child participation. I've been able to ask other countries, where there are sayings, that promote child participation, where they talk about the need for children to be able to engage. But in terms of practice, it is another children for them to start participating, debating, engaging, differing, and agreeing, and being able to know the values of democracy. So that when we have elections in future and those children have been participating from childhood, we won't be able to see people fighting because of tribal lines, people fighting because they liked this candidate over the other. When we embed it at an early stage, people will be able to say, okay, they have voted for that person. Even those that are standing, they want to insist that they are supposed to be president, because democracy is part of them. They have grown up with it. So if they're having, I've lost, and I'm the president, and I know that the remaining constituencies, even if they counted them, if they want to beat the numbers that are there, I pick the phone and call the other, colleague to say, congratulations, my friend. Let's meet at 15 hours. We do the handover notes. But we are having challenges within our democratic systems because children start participating at a late stage. So we need to start looking at the benefits of participating and not just look at it, as something that we are doing as a favor. It is a right, and that right has tremendous benefits that can be able to accrue within our societies if we do it effectively and not in a manner where we just decorate. We are in a meeting, over 500 adults, and you have 2 children. That is wrong. We need effective participation. We need not to just use children with accents. There are people who know how to talk, but they're not saying anything. We need to ensure that children are empowered from all walks of life and be able to participate and bring out these issues. And that will be the foundation for Africa's development. Thank you.
Much, Henry Kabwe, for that presentation. Thank you so much for mentioning that media is a very important tool whereby people, mostly children, should be given enough information to ensure that they present good content so that they can help even children that you mentioned, that this platform should be able to help children who are actually from the poor backgrounds. Thank you so much for that presentation. Here at Mtoto News, actually we actually do leverage for that. We actually try and make children to be visible through content and through media. they get to be helped to present their own segments, like we do news insights here, where we get news from all over Kenya, from different counties here in Kenya, whereby we present, we as the children, we actually do that, we as ourselves. We present the content whereby we're trying to make ourselves to be heard by the world. We also try and ensure that our rights are also heard, because we have segments here whereby we talk about different rights of children who are being violated and the different rights that should be implemented by our governments. We also get recommendations from now the adults now to be able to ensure that so that they can give us the recommendations so that we can present to the government, so that they can tell us what they're doing to ensure that the rights of all the children are being heard, and that all the children are getting the right to things like education, proper health care. They're getting things, girls are getting things like sanitary pads and such. So thank you so much, Henry Kabwe. At this juncture, I want to welcome our very own Dr. Jennifer Kaberi. Yes, I called her doctor. I want to call Dr. Jennifer Kaberi, but at this point I think she's being mic'd. So she's going to talk about how can children and young people use the digital space safely, including the metaverse. Actually, this is quite interesting. She's actually going to talk about the metaverse. It's a new platform that has come from Facebook, and I understand that children also need to know how it works. They also need to know how they can use it to make their content to be heard, to make their rights to be visible. Actually, that's what we are leveraging here at Mtoto News, making children visible. We need to make our children visible from all the backgrounds. So I actually appreciate that we're actually doing something from the metaverse also. So at this point, I think I will welcome Madam Jennifer, so that she can give us the remarks on that. Madam Jennifer, welcome.
Thank you so much, Omar. So this session was supposed to be taken up by Suzanne, but Suzanne is on leave, so she was not able to join me. But I'm going. Apologies for that. Apologies for that. We were just changing microphone batteries. So thank you so much. So thank you so much for joining us. So, as I was saying earlier, that this session was supposed to be taken up by Suzanne, but Suzanne is not available. She's on leave, so she's not available for this session. But I'm going just to go and give some very interesting statistics. In 2019, only about 23% of children were online, and then COVID happened, and about 70% of the children went online. What does this mean? That we have a generation of children who do not understand anything about without digital. Okay? Someone said earlier, there are the digital natives. Someone jokes and said that they are born with their fingers like this, ready to swipe. Okay? But how are we able to ensure that this particular space is an amazing space, that children are able to engage effectively? Okay? We have different places. Like now, we work a lot with children. Mario is here, and I can tell you, there's been video, there's been audio, now there's gaming. Okay, gaming is gaining a lot of traction. Okay, and gaming is just preparing us for the metaverse. Okay, because it's some form of metaverse when you're playing a game, Roblox. Okay, what is the other one? I've forgotten them. You know, there are all these places, but how can we ensure that these children are, one, engaging, two, in a safe space? Okay, so I'm just going to go very quickly. And one is have values. Okay, values don't change. Values don't change. Values don't change because of generations. Values don't change because of spaces. Okay, so values, if your child has values, okay, if a child has value, you've created them. Don't speak to strangers. If a child cannot be able to speak to a physical stranger, then you tell them, don't speak to a stranger that you cannot see. Okay, you don't know who is in the other side of the screen. Okay, so those are the kind of values for them to be resilient, to be kind. Okay, to remember discipline, how you speak to the other person. So number one is just ensuring that the children are valued. So that way, when they're engaging online, they're engaging from a place of self-awareness. They know who they are. Okay, and then life skills, basic life skills like how are you? Okay, people laugh at my emails because I always tell you, have a blessed day, or how are you doing? I know the cliche one, I hope you have been happy, you're well. For me, it's not a cliche email, it's because I really want to find out how are you. Okay, and those just be a human. Okay, number two is be human. Okay, know who you are, be human. Okay, regardless of the gadget, be human. Okay, but when you're engaging like that online, you're more able to support children. You're able to, people will start gravitating to you. Okay, and then don't follow the masses. Okay, I know right now, especially with digital, everybody wants to be on gram, filters. Earlier on, we were joking in the office the way Omar looks as if he's like 2 coats lighter. Okay, and this is because of the lighting. We are in studio, so there are like lights around me. Okay, and you can imagine the pressure this person have as someone is watching this, and then oh, Jennifer, what happened to your face? What foundation are you using now? I'm not using foundation, it's the lighting that is making me look lighter. Okay, so when that child is confident, they have values, they know who they are, they're more likely to engage online more confidently. Okay, and more confidently. Now, and then the usual, I'm going to speak here to the industry. These are the Facebooks, Googles. Ensure, as much as you're insisting, because there's so much insistence by the industry, and I think it's the pressure from regulators on keeping children safe. Okay, but how can they be able to engage effectively? I'm not just posting my posts and tweeting or going on Discord and having conversations on people on Discord, or Instagram posting my photos, and there's no effectiveness. Okay, so there has to be a very deliberate effort by the industry. This Facebook, Google, Twitter, Discord, okay, TikTok is the big one right now. How can young people, how can children be able to engage effectively? Okay, how can we be able to monitor who is engaging with them? Okay, so the industry has to take those steps. Okay, so that because children want to speak online. Okay, as much as we put the capped age at 13 years, but in reality, we have children below the age of 13 who are online. Okay, that is a reality. Okay, the games which are created, are they safe? Okay, the other day my son was playing a game and he was like, oh, mommy, there's this person online who is, but you told me not to be sticking to people. Okay, so that's the other thing. Do we have adults in the children's space? Okay, do you have adults in the children's space? Okay, so the industry has to take control and to keep the online space safe. Okay, and for me, I'm going to challenge all of us who are watching. Okay, we have noted people don't join the webinars, they watch the videos later. Okay, those who are watching the videos later, you have to be ready. Okay, don't be reactive, be proactive. Okay, especially in the children's sector. I remember when we started in Total News, I always tell guys, someone called me and sat me down, thought that I'd gone crazy, and they're like, Jennifer, what is that you're doing? Technology, children, you know, the way online space is very, very unhealthy and unsafe for children. And I tell them it's an amazing space for children also. Okay, so we have to be ready, especially for the metaverse. It's gonna hit us bad. Okay, if you've not bought land yet in the metaverse, start looking for money, cryptocurrency to buy that land on the metaverse. Okay, because that is the new reality. Okay, you'll be able to justify your work. Okay, in the metaverse. Okay, how many children have you reached in the metaverse? Okay, how many children are engaging in the metaverse? Okay, so we will be able to how are you ready? Okay, and that means learning, relearning, ensuring that they are ensuring that your policies, okay, your policies and your project are speaking to okay, to the issues, okay, of children, okay, in the metaverse, okay? That means moving from the usual NGO programming into tech, okay? Don't say, we have an IT person, okay? That's something I hear a lot when no, the IT person is going to sort that out, okay? Be the IT person. Learn. Get to know what is this technology, what is this metaverse people are talking about. Be ready, because the children are born ready with the metaverse in their head. You could hear Omar screaming, oh yeah, this is very interesting, because they're already engaging the metaverse. Okay, we don't need big Googles to do that. It's just a click of the button and you're inside. Okay, so for me, it's a challenge to us, for us to be ready. Okay, so I was hoping Suzanne would come and speak. She has an amazing presentation on online safety and all that, but she was not able to join. So I said, let me jump in for her and just give us some thinking points on how we can be able to engage children safely in the digital era. So I had seen quite a number of questions. I'm looking for someone to read them. I've seen some questions in the chat box. Maybe we can go to that, to Maria and Henry. I'm just waiting for someone to give me the questions.
We have Jacqui Mola.
Yeah.
Who was saying that she wants Dr. Asim's email later on.
Okay.
Yeah. And then we have
if you can hear what Omar is saying, he's reading from another table.
okay, let me just check. We have also Jacqui Molo's she was giving a suggestion that he said that Henry Capwe's point was good. She's saying that no child should be left behind, irrespective of the ethnicity, color, and creed. Also, Michael Wang was saying warm greetings from Consolation, East Africa. And then that's still Jacqui Mola. Namibia is applauding Dr. Asim for highlighting the parts Namibia played in child participation in the draft of the Child Care and Protection Act 2015. And then Yvonne Tagui Ray says, totally agree with Professor Maria on resource mobilization, making technology accessible. It's very important for our states to allocate the necessary resources. And yeah.
Thank you so much, Omar. So next we have a child, and the child is coming in the name of Omar to introduce their fellow children. Omar?
Thank you so much, Madam Jennifer. She's the CEO, founder of Total News International. I've loved the way she's brought up metaverse. Actually, that's something that people have not been talking about, as if it's not there. It's also a platform for children to communicate. It's also a platform for children to get their content out there, for children to ensure that their rights are also heard through the metaverse platform. Thank you so much, Madam Jennifer. So at this point, I want to invite, I understand we have children from Nigeria and Burundi, and they're going to be talking about the digital world, which is also our world as children, but here they've called it My World. So I want to welcome both of them. I'm not sure if they're there. If you can hear me from Nigeria and Burundi, the floor is yours.
I'm coming from Burundi, so I like to give my point of view about digital using in Africa. Okay, I give a simple example in my country. Many children didn't know how to using digital digital kits or web, because we don't have sufficient materials for using it, and firstly for getting connections is very easy. It's not very easy, sorry, it's not very easy for getting networks in my country. And it's one in big problem which we have in my country. But me, as now an activist of child rights, I help others, children, like who live together, or my friends at the school, for giving them the access to using maybe my computer, or computer schools, computer which we get to school, or giving them some knowledges which I have about digital webs and others. Yeah, and it would be better if we have a project in my country which I help a lot of children for digital. This is my ambition which I have, because it should be better and enjoyed me for seeing my friends' children growing up in digital web. Yeah, thank you.
So much for that presentation. Thank you so much for mentioning about the digital world, actually, which is our world as children. Asante Sana from Nairobi, Kenya. I want to invite the next speaker. It's still a child, but now from Nigeria. So if you're there, the floor is yours. Thank you so much. Okay, I'm getting information that the child from Nigeria is not available at the moment. So I guess we are almost coming to the end of the webinar series. At this juncture, we have the plenary, which is supposed to be done by Miss Mora Mengwa. Yes, I know she's startled because she wasn't supposed to be here, but she's going to do the plenary and the closing remarks before we invite again Jennifer. So thank you so much for all the speakers for speaking and giving us your perspective. As you have heard from even the chat box, people are actually saying that people like Henry Cabo and also Dr. Maria Osang, they've actually done a really great job. Your presentation, giving us about participation in the item to on what it is. About adultism. Like Brian King was mentioning something about adultism. Sorry if you didn't hear me there. The mic was having a technical issue, but we're back. Thank you so much for all the speakers who have spoken, for giving us your perspective. I was just mentioning that if you have a question, we have the Q&A. We have the Q&A box which you can ask any question, or you can also use the chat box to ask any of your questions. And at this juncture, I want to welcome Dan. I'm Davi Mulati, Child Participation Manager here at Mtoto News. So, which means he actually knows this actually quite well. So Dan, karibu sana.
Thank you, Omar. I would like to appreciate Omar first for a good job, well done, and to all our panelists who have presented today and those even who presented before in our first 3 webinars. We've been discussing the whole, just trying to unpack the whole concept of child participation. It's a new concept. Many people are still struggling with even understanding the meaning, the real meaning of child participation, and also how to practice it effectively. So we're trying to just put information out there so that people can have a better understanding of what child participation means. The practice, the policies can also be developed to facilitate meaningful participation of children. And so today we're just focusing on online participation, how children can interact virtually and how can they stay safe as they engage virtually. Mtoto News, being a digital company or social enterprise, we are strong proponents of digital or technology. We are always engaging with children through the social media and digital platforms. And with COVID, many things moved online, including classes, including participation, our forums with children. We've been holding online forums with children from Southern Africa. We have these webinars with people joining from different parts of Africa and even globally. And so online platforms are here with us. We have to embrace them. We cannot stay away from them. They facilitate participation, but we need to have some basic information on how to keep children safe as they engage virtually, and also how we can engage with them meaningfully so that we don't just waste their time or hold forums with them and not act on the information provided or shared with children. And so we just want to appreciate all of you who are able to join us today. We want to appreciate the panelists. We want to appreciate Omar, the MC. We want to appreciate those who presented in our earlier webinars. Last week, we were just focusing on the minority or the marginalized groups, children in armed conflict areas, children with disabilities, and the younger ones, the 6 years and below. And we got very insightful information on how to engage them meaningfully. And so today, as we narrowed down on zooming in online participation, I believe we have gotten some information from our today's session. And as we come to the end of our session today, we just want to share with you some important information that we had scheduled another webinar, our final webinar for the first series next week on Tuesday. But because of the Day of the African Child celebrations, we are not going to be able to hold that session next week. We have many events lined up as build-up events for the Day of the African Child. We have many our children and even parts or some of the panelists being engaged in those activities, and so we'll not be able to have our webinar next week on Tuesday. We are moving it to the week after, and so look out for on our social media platforms. We are going to share information on the rescheduled webinar so that you can be able to join. So apologies for that. Because of the Day of the African Child, we are not going to be able to have our webinar next week on Tuesday. We have rescheduled it and we're going to put out information regarding the same. Thank you so much and God bless you.
Hello guys, and welcome to the Mtoto News Webinar Child Series for Child Participation. Are you excited?
This webinar will help you to understand child participation, both from a child perspective as well as experts. It will as well help demystify all the wrong perceptions and meanings previously heard or said. Karibu. Remember, there can never be decisions about children without children.